Update: am I the a-hole for telling my parents that they deserve to be kicked out of my sister's wedding? Original post: so my 37 female brother Mike, 35 male, is a knob. Always has been and always will be. He has been babied to the point of uselessness by our mom and dad, and that's made him an entitled slob. When he was younger, he showed promise playing rugby, which had my mom and dad believing he was going to be a superstar. The problem was that he never had the work ethic to fully fulfill his potential. However, this meant that he was the golden boy of the family and could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. He was a bully at school, which they brushed off as other kids making up lies, but he was an even bigger bully at home to our younger sister Kelly, 31 female. He would constantly prank her, which basically meant he would do anything he could to embarrass her, including things like pulling her dress up in front of the whole family at a wedding when she was 15. Mom and Dad just said it was siblings being siblings, but the rest of the family were mortified by his behavior. I did try to stick up for my sister, and it worked to a certain extent, but after I went away to uni, there wasn't much I could do, as Mom and Dad just don't listen to anyone. It got so bad that when she was 18, my sister gave up going to her dream university, St. Andrews, and instead moved to London to go to Imperial College London. This was a huge shock to all of us, as she had been talking about St. Andrews since she started high school at 11. When I asked why, she said that St. Andrews was too close to home, and she would be expected to go back more often, but if she went to London, she would only have to go home for Christmas. This broke my heart. After she left, she did exactly that. The only time she was home was Christmas and when I got married. This really annoyed Mom and Dad, as they said she was abandoning the family. I kept my mouth shut and just let them whine occasionally, as I didn't want an argument. After graduating from uni, my parents expected her to move back home. But she didn't. She got a job working in southern England and stayed down there. We are from Scotland, for reference. 6 years ago, Kelly met a great guy, Jake, 30 male. The day she met him, she called me gushing about him, and I've honestly never heard her speak about anyone the way she does him. I've met him several times when I've gone down to visit Kelly, and he's great. Good looking, funny, great job. His family are lovely, and most importantly, he treats Kelly like she hung the moon. It's very cute. After she met him, she cut down how much she came home even more, as she spent the first Christmas with his family, and then the pandemic happened, so she ended up not coming home for 3 years. Her first Christmas home, Mike started his usual BS trying to be the center of attention. When it didn't work out as well as he wanted, since most of the family were more interested in getting to know Jake, he then tried to prank Kelly. He got a big bowl of water and was going to pour it over her. Jake saw what was happening and stepped in front of Kelly, telling Mike not to even think about it. Side note, Jake is 6'3" and has been doing martial arts since he was 4, so he can be very intimidating when needed. Mom and Dad tried to play it off as a harmless prank, but Jake was having none of it. Mike started whining about it just being a prank, and Jake told him that if he pranked Kelly one more time, he would prank Jake by putting his foot up his arse and his fist down his throat. Kelly and Jake left about an hour later, but after that, Mike, Mom, and Dad all had an issue with Jake. Kelly hasn't been back home since. That leads us to now. Kelly and Jake are getting married. They sent out invites in February for August. However, they didn't invite Mike. Mom and Dad are obviously incensed by this and had a huge argument with Kelly. They threatened not to go, and Kelly just said no problem, and that she would get Granddad to walk her down the aisle. I went around to their house on Saturday with my kids. Immediately, my mom started complaining about Kelly and the wedding. I sat and listened for a while before I'd had enough. I asked her what she actually expected. Her and Dad have allowed Mike to be the golden child and get away with everything. Because of that, he can't keep a relationship due to thinking everyone should do everything for him. He can't hold down a job because every job is beneath him, and he's still living at home with zero prospects in life. The man-child is a bully who I don't trust to be around my children unsupervised. He bullied Kelly for most of her teen years, and her only escape was to move over 400 miles away and never come home. My mom got very quiet and then asked me to leave. A few hours later, my dad called, going mad because I'd upset my mom and was taking the side of an ungrateful little girl instead of my parents who gave me everything. This started a huge argument between me and him, where I told him he'd been a crap dad to Kelly and didn't deserve to walk her down the aisle. I've just had enough, but now I've got extended family members telling me I've gone too far, as my mom is barely speaking to anyone and keeps crying. My granddad said it was about time I told them off, but my grandma is upset by all the arguing. So, am I the a-hole for telling my parents that they sucked as parents and deserved to be kicked out of my sister's wedding? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Sounds like they kicked themselves out. They only care about Mike's feelings, not the years of trauma they caused Kelly. Not the a-hole. If they can't stand the truth, they need to hibernate. I vote Grandpa walks her down the aisle regardless of who attends. My sister isn't changing her mind. They aren't going to the wedding no matter what. She only invited them as she thought it was the right thing to do in the first place. So, Granddad will be walking her no matter what. Be prepared for them turning up anyway, and with Mike in tow. I am going to speak to Kelly about this. I don't think they would, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Love, Jake. Can't wait until they get older and expect Golden Child to take care of kids. OP. Don't bail them out. Let them experience the fruit of their years of bad behavior. Maybe then they will realize they did something wrong. Don't let your kids be around your parents unsupervised. Personally, I wouldn't allow your parents or brother around your kids at all. You may be numb to it, but witnessing abuse all the time can be quite damaging for kids' mental development. You might want to consult a therapist for their thoughts on how exposure to them could be affecting your kids. My kids have never been around my parents without either myself or my husband, as I know they would let my brother be around them unsupervised. They won't be going anywhere near my parents for a long while. They don't like going to my parents' house anyway. Now for the update. Hi all, that post took off a lot more than I thought it would. There were way too many comments for me to respond to, but I tried to read every one of them. I was asked for an update, so here it is. There were a few things that came up repeatedly, so I'll address them first. The pranks only started after I had left and gone to uni. He would say things to Kelly and I would argue back when we were younger, but it wasn't anything more than that until after I'd left home, so there wasn't much I could really do to stop it. I did speak to our parents, but they were useless. Second, about my kids. I didn't bring them around much, as they didn't like going to my parents' house. They said it was boring and they didn't like Mike. After all the comments I received, I sat them down and asked again. For my daughter, it really is just that she finds it boring and says Mike is a weirdo. My son, however, said he doesn't like being around my dad because he keeps trying to make him play rugby. I had heard these comments before and told my dad to drop it, but he would still make remarks occasionally. I had no idea it was actually upsetting my son. This surprised me. My son doesn't like sports, watching or playing. He's very much like his dad in that regard. He's into Pokemon, plays online, and goes every Thursday evening to play in a tournament at our local card shop. Rugby is an absolute no-go for him. The third thing was about security at the wedding. I spoke to Kelly and Jake said that 2 of his groomsmen are police officers who are aware of the situation, so that won't be a problem. Lastly, there were a lot of comments about Mike being the golden child. For more backstory, he wasn't really the favorite until his talent in rugby came to light. After that, he was special and had to be treated as such. I think he was seen as mom and dad's way of being special within the family because they had such a super talented child. Anyway, today I decided to sit down with my parents and tell them I needed a break from them. When I got there, my dad immediately wanted me to apologize to my mom, but I said that wasn't going to happen. There was a bit of back and forth between him and me until my mom stepped in and asked why I was there if not to apologize. I told them I had spoken to Kelly and she didn't want them at the wedding at all, that they needed to stay away and respect her decision. They weren't happy, but said they wouldn't go where they weren't wanted. I then told them I wanted space until after the wedding because I couldn't keep being around them and keeping my mouth shut. I thought some space would be good for all of us. My mom wasn't happy and started going on about seeing my kids. I told them the truth, that my kids hate coming to their house and told my dad exactly why my son doesn't want to be around him. He got upset and said rugby would be good for him. I shut that down and said I'm not going to force my son to do something he doesn't want to do, especially something I know he'll hate. I also told him that if I hear him mention it around my son again, he won't see him again. Right now, they'll only be seeing my kids at family events, so I'm hoping it won't be a problem. I then asked them what their long-term plan was with Mike. Are they going to keep things the way they are until they're 90 and mom is still making all his meals? What happens when they're gone? Who will look after him? Because it won't be me. What happens if they get ill? Who will look after them? Mike is incapable. Kelly lives down south, and I plan on moving back to my husband's hometown, 3 hours away, once the kids have left home. So I can't do it. They just looked at me blankly. I really don't think they'd ever even thought about any of that before. I told them they had set Mike up to fail, and now they needed to deal with it. I also told them I knew they were leaving everything to him in their will, but with how they've babied him, it'd blow through that money in less than a year. Then what? I could see the panic in my mom's eyes when I said that. She either hadn't thought about it or thought I would look after him, which she now knows isn't going to happen. I also think she was shocked that I knew about the will. After I told them what low contact with me would look like going forward, and them not being happy about it, I left. Hopefully I've given them a lot to think about. I'll check in with them from time to time, but that's all for now. I'm going to visit Kelly in the next couple of weeks, so I'm looking forward to that. My extended family have also backed off after I sent them all a text saying if they were so concerned about my mom, they could be her support system and deal with Mike, the same way Kelly and I have had to for years. Not surprisingly, none of them wanted to. Otherwise, I'm just going to try and get on with things as normal. Thanks for the not the a-hole verdict and all the advice. It opened my eyes to a few things I'd been brushing off. I also told them I knew that they were leaving everything to him in their will, but that with how they have babied Mike, he would blow through that money in less than a year. And then what? Some people inherit their parents' house, and through good financial planning and healthy financial habits, they manage to keep the house for future generations. Other people, after being cosseted all their lives and being gifted a modest fortune or home, blow through it in a year, or 2 or 3, and end up having the property seized for failure to pay taxes, or for not keeping up the property, or it gets seized by the bank because the new owner decided to get a home equity loan for some quick cash and forgot to make the monthly payments. I would feel bad for your brother, but it's hard to do that for someone who still acts like a child as an adult. How shameful of them to leave everything to one child when they have 3 children and OP has children, and the other is getting married and will most likely start a family soon. OP, please don't let them come crying to you if they need any elder care in the future. Mike can take care of them. Based on the update, it sounds like that is exactly what they were expecting. And for OP to take care of Mike as well. Leaving everything to Mike isn't any more shameful than the way they have been handling things up till now. They know the 2 daughters will be able to take care of themselves, so at least they are following through with the enabling as long as they can. Sarcasm. They 100% thought I would be around to look after them and Mike. They were shocked when I told them that wasn't going to happen. I'm hoping it's a real wake-up call for them. My parents don't have much in savings, so Mike will sell the house as quickly as possible, go into the cheapest rented accommodation he can find, and blow the money on FIFA, nights out and clothes. He will be broke within a year. He racked up £5,000 on credit cards with FIFA packs before, so most of the money will go there. Last story. Am I the a-hole for being resentful and angry that my parents had me so I'd take care of my disabled brother when they die? I, 17 male, have an older brother, Shane, 21 male, who's disabled and will never be able to live independently. My parents knew from birth that Shane was physically disabled, but it was when he was around 3 that they realized he was on the autism spectrum too. By the time I was born, he had also been diagnosed with an intellectual disability. All 3 of these together mean he has a lot of care needs. He needs help getting in and out of his wheelchair in bed, washing himself and brushing his teeth, eating and drinking, holding anything in his hands, and he's nonverbal, so he doesn't have the communication skills to express what he needs with words. I was primarily raised by other family members until I was 5. I spent those first 5 years moving from relative to relative and would visit my parents and Shane. Once I turned 5, my parents moved me in and started teaching me all about taking care of Shane. They had me picking up after him, learning to bathe and feed him, and doing all kinds of things. They told me how important I was to our family and how they knew Shane needed me before they even had me. I was 8 when my parents admitted they had me because they knew he'd need a sibling to look after him when they died, and they were so glad they had me, so they'd never have to worry about it. My life has revolved around this, and it has also limited my life. There were things I just never got to do because my parents deemed them too high risk for me. So I don't know how to swim. I don't get to hang out with friends, really ever. I only had friend birthday parties, and they never rented a bounce house or got me a trampoline when I was younger. All play with cousins was expected to be gentle and have no risk of causing me harm. Their biggest fear isn't that I'd die because they'd miss me, but because of Shane. My education has suffered a lot because of it. I'm graduating next year and I already know my grades won't be anywhere close to good, but I'll pass, which is something, at least. My extended family doesn't want to help me have a life, and I feel brushed off whenever I ask them for help. My parents only care about me as Shane's future guardian, and not as their son too. Now that I'm older and I feel like I never really got to be a kid, I'm so resentful, and I'm angry at my parents for putting me in the position I'm in. Lately, I've been really bitter in interactions with my parents. They've called me out on it, and I finally told them exactly how I feel. I admitted to being resentful and angry that they had me to be my brother's keeper. They got mad at me for having any problem with it. They think I should love Shane enough to do all this stuff willingly. My extended family has been acting colder since I told my parents to, so I know the family I've seen lately, paternal grandma, paternal aunt and uncle, maternal cousin of my mom, are on my parents' side. Although I already knew that, nobody cared to help me. Am I the a-hole though? Now for the top comments. Thoughts? Shane is not your child and not your responsibility. You need to look into getting a job and saving money to move out on your own. Look into shared accommodation to begin with, as it's more affordable. Then leave. You are not your parents' backup plan. There are plenty of options for your parents that don't include you sacrificing your life. One step at a time, and start your exit plan ASAP. Do you have any friends or family that you can speak with about this situation? I mentioned in my post that I have talked to extended family. They won't help me and side with my parents on this. My friends know, but they can't help me. My parents never let me get a part-time job. I tried once or twice, and they intervened and said I wasn't allowed to work and they didn't give their consent. They don't like me being out of the house for that long. Not the a-hole. They can't force you to be the caregiver. Move out and don't sign anything without reading. Extended family don't want to be straddled with Shane either. That's why they support the parents' plan. I can't move out, but I've never signed anything nor would. I don't want to be his caregiver the way they expect me to be. You can move out when you graduate. Someone else suggested joining the military, and I second this. I did at 17, not because of a crappy home life, but because my parents couldn't help with college. I wanted out and away from our little town that offered nothing. The best decision I ever made. And it is absolutely horrific that your parents conceived you to be your brother's keeper. That is not your job, it's theirs. Please get out as soon as you can. It'll be hard, but you need to get out ASAP. God bless you and good luck. That's really not something I would ever do. I'll look at other options, but the military is a hard no for me.